You're listening to GotTechED the Podcast with your hosts, Eric Geis and Nick Johnson. Welcome back to GotTechED the Podcast. This is episode 141 called 10 Creative Project Ideas to Start the School Year. In this episode, we'll share 10 refreshing project ideas for the start of school that will actually get your students excited about completing them. This is another episode you don't want to miss. Check it out.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. You can find out more at teachbetter.com/podcasts. Now let's get back to the episode.
All right, so we are back. This is July 3rd, or close to it. It's almost one of my favorite holidays, which is the 4th of July. I don't like the 4th of July for the fireworks. I don't really like the 4th of July for any other reason than I get to grill out.
Yep.
It's a day where, it's almost pre-planned every year. We don't go anywhere, and I just get to grill out and chill out. And that's what the summer's all about.
I agree with you. It's almost like the outdoor Thanksgiving, but at the beginning of summer. It's just super awesome. I do like the fireworks. I don't like all these neighborhood fireworks that go on these days, but I do like going to the big community fireworks celebration.
You bring up a good point, especially when you have 3 little kids.
Yes.
3 little kids, these neighborhood fireworks all hours of the night is just like an invitation for all 3 of my kids to hop into bed with me. And, my kids are not the calmest of sleepers. They're flailers. They flail and wail. And it ends up I wake up feeling like I was in a 12-round boxing match.
Yeah, but, in general, we love the holiday. We're excited about this episode, and because it's a summertime release, we're going to kind of skip our normal segment 1 of updates and hop straight into the meat of the episode, which is project ideas. Now, I have to be honest, when I put this episode together, my intention was thinking about summer assignment ideas. But of course, if it's being released on July 3rd, these are not possible to be used for summer assignments, at least this summer, of course, because we're all already on summer break. But what we kind of noticed is that it doesn't matter, really. These project ideas are just good project ideas. So we kind of spun it and said that these could also be project ideas to start the school year, or let's be honest, project ideas for any time of year.
So I'm going to agree with you on most of that, but I'm going to also disagree with you. I know some of my teachers for my kids' teachers, there we go. I know that they send out summer projects a month before school starts because they want them to kind of relax a little bit and just be a kid and go play and all that. But they want to get their kids back into it by the time school starts. Now, they're not going to give anything super extensive or anything like that. Just something little, hopefully something fun that's going to allow them to ease back into the school year. So I see these fitting there. I see us also using these for maybe that first project of school, first week of school project that helps us get to know kids a little bit. I could see how they can really personalize their projects, some of these projects to help, say who they are, tell their story. So
that's a great point. I didn't really think about the fact that some schools do release summer assignments sort of midsummer, which is great. Which actually ties into one of the first things I wanted to ask you about, and that is just your general opinions on summer assignments. I give summer assignments because our school tells me I have to. It's a requirement for high-level courses. Even our regular level academic courses have to have summer assignments. I don't think they're required. So of course nobody does them, but they have to be there. I don't know how I feel about that personally. Part of me is yeah, that's great, keeps kids' brains working. But on the other hand, I do like the idea of kids having a summer and getting to relax. Where do you fall on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, kids nowadays, their schedules are packed.
Yeah.
And they don't really need another thing. They just need time to be a kid. Now, I do think it's very valuable instead of using class time to do the About Me project at the beginning or fill out note cards or something like that. If you could find a way to give them something right before they get back that's going to help them introduce themselves, I think that is very valuable. And it would even be better if the teacher has their EdTech toolkit that we talk about, their favorite collection of EdTech tools. Pick the ones that students will use during the year. Ask them to use one of them. That way they have a little bit of time where they don't need to worry about learning a new tool and also learning new content at the same time. This allows them to just kind of get familiar with a tool that you use all the time while telling their story, while introducing themselves. And I think that's where I would go if I even do this at all. Because like you said, at least in our district, can you grade these summer assignments? I know some school districts, it's just a requirement, but they don't earn anything from it.
Right.
So what is the point?
Yeah. Oh, those are all great questions. And that's sort of like when we get into these ideas, you'll notice that is the approach we've taken is these are, fun things. These are light things that maybe won't be graded at all. It's just more for the kids to get the experience of doing something and then reporting on that. And, what we did also put together just a brief list of tips that I'll kind of rattle off here. Like if you're putting together a beginning of year project or a summer project, however you're going to use these things, you want to keep it light. Let the kids have that time to ease back into school without jamming all this content down their throats right away. Same thing goes for the summer assignment version. You want to be creative with these. Think outside the box. Don't make it seem like work necessarily. We talked in one of our recent episodes about something called unhomework, where it's optional and it's not sitting down with a worksheet, right? It's just a totally different take on things. And that's really what I tried to focus on with this list. Give them choice, if at all possible, maybe some different options. And the other thing is you want to keep it accessible, especially if this goes for summertime work, because as we know, kids are coming from all different backgrounds, and they may not necessarily be able to do the thing you are asking them to do in as equal a way as other students. So that's another important thing to consider with all of these. But I guess it's probably time to just hop into it. So we've got a list of 10. The first one on that list is having them visit somewhere. In particular, my first thought was that you could have them visit specifically a museum or a gallery that is local, that is like right in your community and easy to get to help that accessibility piece. My thought was if this was a summer assignment or maybe like a early school year sort of a field trip thing, something you could walk to perhaps even, you can have their kids use their cell phones and record themselves standing in front of a certain number of pieces at the gallery or museum they're at. And so they've got all this video footage of themselves there and seeing these things and talking about them and learning from them. If you want to extend this a little bit further, you could even have them edit it together. Require that the edited video needs to be in the form of like a documentary series or something. Or do it as a class project where each student brings in, one review, their own review, and then as a group, they have to edit everything together into one documentary about like their visit to the blank gallery or whatever it is, or the blank museum. Here we have a tool called WeVideo that allows for this type of online video editing, which would be great, especially if you're doing it as a class. But that was the first thing that came to mind. Notice, super creative. It's not going to feel exactly like your typical summer assignment or, year opener project. I think it could be really fun.
I probably need to do this one. I'm going to admit that I've never been to a museum, like an art museum.
Oh, okay.
An art museum.
Okay, that's not as bad. Really? You've never been to an art museum?
Yeah, I was supposed to go, I think on like a 3rd or 4th grade field trip, got sick. I was supposed to go again in high school, and something else happened that I wasn't able to make school. I think I had a soccer tournament or something that was far away, and we were driving back. But I missed the 2 field trips during school, and I just don't believe I ever went to one. I can't recall one. I know I've been to like the Franklin Institute, if that's called a museum. I don't think so. They're exhibits, but maybe, I don't know. But an official art museum, I have not gone to.
All right, GotTech field trip this summer. We're going to the Philly Art Museum. Get ready.
We'll take the missus too.
All right.
Because my wife is very anxious to culture me.
Oh boy.
I don't know. I think it's just because I don't really see color that well that it's not as, I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a great point. But
all right, we'll do it just to check off the bucket list. All right. So let's make the world a better place. Write a story about anything really that you want using Book Creator. So basically for this one, I'm seeing this as a passion project where you can link yourself to a nonprofit or a cause or something like that and try to, document more like a scrapbook, not more, something along those lines, but document your experience with volunteering with a group, or maybe you do a 5K raising money for X, Y, and Z. All right. Do some research on X, Y, and Z and have them make a little scrapbook of their experience and a reflection on that. All right. Once again, low key, they're learning a piece of ed tech there, and they're able to basically show the rest of the class something that they're interested in by delivering this scrapbook or book or picture book or collage or whatever you want to do there. There's so many options.
Yeah, and I like to, if I was going to do this, I would keep it super open and broad. Like literally the only direction could be make the world a better place. And you let the kids take that however you want. You gave some great examples. It can be stuff too like, you could just have them walk to a park within walking distance of their house and plant a tree. Plant 5 different trees, make them local trees to the environment that you guys live in, to make sure that they're adding to the types of plant and animal life that are supposed to be in that area, to sort of add an educational bent to it. But I like the idea of this, and again, it's the type of thing that doesn't exactly feel like work or schoolwork necessarily, but everybody's still benefiting from that. The next one I like a lot, especially for chemistry, because one of the things you do in a chem class at the beginning is try to let students know, what it's used for, and that people who like science, even if it's not chemistry specifically, you might end up in a career where you got to know some chemistry, and there's lots of those careers out there. You could ask for the project that students interview a professional. Our school and lots of schools have networks set up to help connect you with these people to make this possible. If you don't have that, you're going to have to do a little bit more legwork here to create those connections with these professionals. But, I was thinking about if I was to do this interview assignment, I might turn it into an audio-based project where the interview gets recorded. Could be on something as simple as student cell phones or student Chromebooks, whatever they have. And then these recordings get turned into a class podcast that you could do whatever you want with. And we have tons of resources on that. If you head to the show notes for this episode, you'll find a link to this GotTech Student Podcasting Guide that we reference a lot. And this is just another one of those times. But I think interviewing professionals within a field could be a really interesting beginning of year project for me, and I'm guessing if you've got enough time, a summer assignment as well.
Yeah, I think recording things, just in society right now is a great way to document things and really understand them a little better and revisit them. So I think that's a great summer project. The next one that I would do is a movie review. I know over the summer, anytime it rains or anything like that, that's when we typically do a movie night. We try to take full advantage of nice weather, but anytime we are stuck inside, we usually go to a movie or watch a movie on TV. One of the things that you could do is have your students watch a movie and create a movie poster in Canva or Google Slides or whatever you want, any type of ed tech platform that you have. One of my favorite things to do with movies is reflecting, reflecting on the themes of that movie. So what was the lesson that this movie is trying to get out? What is the big conflict? How is the conflict resolved? But if we just stick with the themes of that movie, identify 3 themes of that movie, and talk about how those themes relate into your real life. You can make a poster out of that. Or how did these 3 takeaways from the movie impact you? So there's the personalization piece where you could get to know them just based on the 3 themes of that movie. So there's a lot of connections that could be made, not only between that student in the movie, but their peers and that student in the movie if they all watched it.
Yeah, and you could even make this more content specific by choosing the movie yourself and making sure that there are things in that movie that relate to what the kids are going to be learning about over the course of the coming years. So I like that idea too. Our next one, our 5th one, is to attend a conference. This I've found extra interesting because you don't typically think about that as something that kids are interested in doing, and they may not be. But if the timing is right and you live in a spot that would have a conference close by enough, I think that could be a really perhaps totally new experience for a lot of kids. And maybe this only works for older students. I'm not sure. It depends on the types of conferences near you at that time. But chances are pretty good that within the area you're at, there's a conference center, and certainly over the summertime or throughout the fall, they're going to have some events, and one of those might be really cool for students to check out. As educators, we go to lots of conferences. If you're listening to this show, you probably go to more conferences than the average educator does, and you know just how much varied stuff is there, right? As a twist, if I was going to have my students go to a conference and report on it and then produce something afterwards, this is another spin on my recent obsession with timelines. But you can have them make a timeline of their visit. So starting it at check-in, the 8 a.m. check-in, they have to document their day by creating a timeline. And we've recently shared in episodes lots of different ways to do that. I think time.graphics is a website that still is my favorite one, but I think that could be a pretty neat experience and could teach your kids a lot.
Yeah, you could do this with camps too for them. Their conference, it's kind of like a camp.
Right.
So if you take a week-long camp and they're reporting on their, favorite part of their day, or if you're a science teacher, what is something in nature that you saw throughout that week or something like that? Identify 3 living things that you have seen each day of the week. It could be a plant, animal, insect, whatever. So I like that one a lot. The next one is kind of on that same nature-y type feel, and that's go on a hike and collect and catalog X number of items. Plant life, animal life, etc. So they could go with a camera. It could just be their cell phone, and they could take random pictures of things. They could classify them, or maybe they could talk, if it's an English class or a writing class, maybe they can talk about, their walk in the woods and what inspired them and what they were thinking about, and, things along those lines. So I do like the whole getting them outside to go do something, especially hiking, because it's free. Everyone can do it, and just go out. It could even be in a city. Go for a walk. What did you think about during that walk? What are some things that you saw, and kind of challenge them to make something. Go for a 10-minute walk. Use your experience to come up with some type of story, short story. It could be a true story, it could be made up, but use your walk to influence your writing.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I stole this one from the AP Environmental Science class at our high school. This is essentially what this teacher asks her students to do over the summer, is just get outside. I use the term hike here in this description, but like you pointed out, you might choose to not use that word depending on where most of your kids live. If you're in a city environment, you might not want to call it a hike. You might want to call it a walk. Doesn't matter. The point is get them looking at stuff that's around and stuff that is outside. And I know one of the focuses for the project at our school is more on think there's two prongs to it. One of them is, biodiversity and the types of plants and animals, and just noticing that, right? Most of us go through life not noticing that. You just, you walk by the same 5 trees on the way to work every day as you walk in from your car, but we never really stop and look at the leaves of those trees or look at the types of bugs that are on those trees. And if you do that, you immediately start learning stuff about the environment and then the connections between those living things. Another, I don't know if cool connection is a good word here, but another thing this can connect to is, one of the things your students are probably going to notice is the amount of trash that's around and is everywhere today, that again, we often don't see as you're just casually walking from point A to point B or driving or whatever. But if the assignment is to stop and look and catalog or take pictures and collect things, they're going to start to notice that too. And that obviously can be built into all sorts of other topics here. So that's one of my favorites, as is the next one. This is something that I took from a museum's website. It's you may have heard of it online. It's referred to as the Getty Challenge. And you could have your kids participate in the Getty Challenge as the project idea. If you've never heard of it, you could just Google the Getty Challenge. This comes from the Getty Museum, and as a PR stunt, basically, that actually worked out really well for them. They challenged people to try to recreate artworks at the museum in their homes using everyday objects, and then photograph that and share it online. And immediately I was like, man, this is awesome and fun to do, and could be really fun as a class project as well. So it's tough to envision this until you go look at some of the examples on their website. One of them is, the first one at the top of the page is a sculpture of some person. I don't know what the heck this person is holding. Maybe like a stick or some type of a horn. I have no clue. But that's there's a statue. That's the original piece of artwork. And then the recreation is some lady sitting on a chair in her house that kind of matches the way that the sculpture, or the person in the sculpture, is sitting, and she's holding her vacuum cleaner so that the hose of the vacuum cleaner makes the same arcing shape as whatever this thing is that the person in the sculpture is holding. And they're matched up really closely, so it's clear what she's trying to do. Her head is tilted in the same way as the head in the sculpture, so you know what you're looking at, and it matches up and it makes sense. And if you just head to this website and give a scroll through here, you'll get the idea. It doesn't have to be you in the picture too. Like there's one where somebody used things from their kitchen, like lasagna noodles and eggs and matchsticks, to recreate this drawing that they saw at the museum. It's just a cool way. The most obvious connection is tying into art class and teaching kids about things like design and composition, but you might find a creative way to have this connect to whatever subject area you teach. It also can be done digitally without actually having to go there. So that accessibility piece, because a lot of these artworks you can find pictures of online. And while it would be cooler, certainly, to go there, it's to go to an actual museum or gallery for this, you definitely do not have to do that. So that's the Getty Challenge.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one. These projects are really, really cool.
Yeah, they're funny.
Really cool. Some of them are really, really funny too. I'm going to get into my next one, and I wasn't sure what I was getting into because this is one that Nick put on the list, but I'm taking a look at it. It's pretty cool. It says curate a virtual exhibit in Google Slides. Check out this great example, which is in our show notes, of the Framingham Middle School. It's an art exhibit, but you could do this with really anything that students create, and really it's just a museum tour. So they have basically this museum setup, and then you're able to insert student artwork there and take a look at it like you're walking through a virtual museum. It's really, really well done. They use some inspiring quotes along the way that they're mounting on top of the wall, but all the different types of artwork is there. They give tons titles to these collections. So some of them are digital mandalas, some of them are textured photography, and I don't know, it's just super cool the way that they did it. It's very unique with the background. You could take a copy of this and probably make your own pretty easily. I could even have, like, you can have your students do this over the summer and they have to do one slide. And then when you come into school, after you collected them all, you make a big collage of these things or within the presentation. And then you're really making a collection that the students can relate to. So if little Johnny, if the 5 prompts that they have to choose from is, sports, vacations, culture, religion, whatever those 5 may be, they have to choose 3 of those that represents them. Well, that's what they do. They choose 3. And then you put them into this slideshow, and then you could even have students guess what those 3 are and what it means to them. And that's a good way to have some early class bonding going on in your classroom.
Yep. And the only other thing I wanted to point out here with these, having kids make a virtual exhibit is that this doesn't have to just be art. The example that I found from Framingham Middle School is art, but you could easily have them make a virtual science exhibit. You mentioned the Franklin Institute. That's the one that's like Philadelphia's science museum. Every city has one, right? Well, there's nothing stopping kids from creating a virtual science exhibit, which, could be super fun. Maybe they could even come up with what the exhibit is going to be and design it, take a picture of it, and add it into their Google Slides virtual template. So I love that idea. It's maybe my favorite one on this list. Number 9 on the list, so we're almost at the end here, guys, is pretty simple, and it is just writing a children's book. That's it. End of story. Could be a coloring book, could be an activity book, can be as short or as long as you want. I put it on here because we actually had our students do this in a new course we're teaching this year called World Ready Technology that teaches kids how to create different types of online media, basically. And we asked them to do this as one of their projects. I think ours was a coloring book, to be specific, but I think that was the assignment that they got the most excited for, is putting together this kids book, just because as high school students you don't really ever get to think that way. And I think if you design it right, there's lots of good learning that could happen as you put kids in the position of having to design a book for other students of a certain grade level. I mean, there's actually a surprising amount that you have to think about there to do a good job at this. I know we had lots of good conversations with our students as they were putting their children's books together. So that's a fun one and kind of an easy one for you to set up, because it's not always a whole lot of description that has to go along with that.
Yeah, the coloring book was awesome to make. We had each kid make their own, or partner up with someone to make their own, and then we took some of the better ones and we printed them out and we bound them together and we handed them out to local elementary schools and preschools. So it was cool to see that project succeed in the way that it did. It was very interesting. So the last one is the adventure challenge. So you as a teacher can really put any parameters that you want on this, but create a community-based scavenger hunt. And this could be at local parks, libraries, commerce, whatever it may be. And it could be QR code centered. So you could give them 10, 12 QR codes that's going to challenge them to do as many as 10 to 12 actions. You could tell them that they have to do 3 to 5, and that would be fine. Maybe it's a tic-tac-toe board of QR codes, and they have to get tic-tac-toe or whatever you may feel is necessary to meet the needs. And some of this stuff can just be stay at home and, write a short story on this, or choose a family member to interview. You can do write a recap to a sports event that you were at, whether you played in it or you just went and watched, or listen to your favorite song. Try to, identify the instrumental portion of that and what works well and what you wish was added to that. Take a look at the lyrics, break those down, try to find deeper meaning in lyrics. So many things that you could do here, and it's presented to them in a nice way that they're gonna, buy in. And it's trickery. That's what it is. We're tricking them to do something that is going to be relatable, that's going to help introduce them to their peers when they get back to school, and maybe even be fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I know with this whole list, I'm almost embarrassed to say it after we've shared these 10 really creative ideas. My AP Chem summer assignment is read 4 chapters of a textbook and answer these questions. And I can't ever give it up because I feel like at least I need my students to come in having reviewed the topics that they're covering in this assignment, because I don't really teach them. I just kind of hit the ground running, and I keep telling myself, well, it's an AP class and blah, 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 blah. But man, I would love to figure out a way to somehow cover that same content but use one of these really creative ideas. So maybe now's the time.
So you could still have them read those 4 chapters, and then you could pick one of these ideas to have them answer those questions that you're asking. Because really, you're not asking them for the minutia to be pros at that. What you want to do is you want to give them an introduction to your AP course. So when you hop into that, they're not going to be completely overwhelmed and blindsided. They're going to be able to see some of that information for a second time. So there's no reason why you can't ask them to use Book Creator to answer a couple of questions and put these chemical principles into some type of a scrapbook, your chemistry logbook or whatever.
Right, yeah, or they could design a virtual science museum exhibit based on something from chapter 2.
Yeah, so you can meld this together. I think a lot of times when we think of summer assignments, we're trying to put the horse before, what's that expression? Put the horse after the cart?
Yeah,
before the cart?
Something like that.
I don't know. But anyway, I feel like a lot of times teachers are trying to be off to the races, see how far ahead they could get so we can kind of just put it on cruise control instead of, back to the future warp speed, level. But, use some of these ideas throughout the school year. You can easily meld and adjust these to anything that you're doing in your classroom for any point in time. So I think these are not just summer assignments. They're not just first day of school assignments. These are things that you could use throughout the year. I typically like to do these right before holidays, give them, the last couple of days when it's usually chaotic to work on something productive. Because, I just feel like when we go on a long vacation, like winter break or spring break or fall break for some people, I feel like the 2 days before that break is really just chaotic. So maybe they could be chaotic while working on one of these, I don't want to say it's low effort, but it's low stress, I feel. Because it's a very easy way to manipulate content and also bring in a little bit of personality, your personality within the projects.
Yep, you said it, man, and I think that's a good close to this whole thing. So happy summer, everybody. We hope you're enjoying the beginning of that time. And as always, do us some favors. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube. You can follow us there at We Got Teched. Our Twitter accounts, Guys Got Teched, Nick Got Teched, We Got Teched. Write us a review. Tell your friends about GotTechED.com. Head to GotTech.com yourself for all of our episodes and other posts. And of course, head to the Teach Better Podcast Network page as well to see us, where we are hosted along with many other awesome educational podcasts. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for
for listening to GotTech the Podcast. Remember to subscribe to our show and follow us at WeGotTech on Twitter so you can stay up to date with the latest episode releases, blog posts, product reviews, and PD announcements. You can also follow Geis and I individually at GeisGotTech and at NickGotTech on Twitter or on Instagram at NickGotTech. Finally, remember to check out our website, GotTechED.com, where we post all our episodes, articles, and resources available to you for free. Until next time.